But I'm like, I don't think that I would be bad at it, and I'm not scared of it. I just don't want to. It doesn't
I think people
fit what I want.
Yeah, and I just feel like people struggle with accepting that as a reason.
Yeah, no, they do.
Yeah, because it's like...
What?
This is the I'm Uncomfortable podcast, the podcast for people who want to be okay with being uncomfortable. We're your hosts, Vanessa
and Melissa.
And we're coming to you today, not live, pre-recorded. I always want to say we're live.
Yeah, I know. You always have the urge.
Like, we're live. We're not live. We're live here.
Yes.
Yes.
In studio.
We're in studio. We are.
We do have, like, a live audience, kind of.
Yeah, right here. So helpful. Yeah.
The silent, like,
I wish we had the laugh track
going.
I know. Well, in today's episode, we are going to get into saying no, which we love to do lately, but specifically saying no to promotions, which sounds...
Or job offers.
Yes, which sounds crazy, but I think we've done a lot of work over the years, if you're just tuning in, of being very intentional about the choices that we're making instead of just kind of like going for things that we think we should go for. But before we get into all that...
We love to talk about our comfy moments.
We do.
So, do you want to share yours first, or do you want me to go first?
I can go. So, Melissa recently said something to me.
Hold on. I hate when you do this to me. When we have the notes open and I can kind of see a preview of what you're gonna say, but surprise. Okay.
Yeah. So we were talking about the show, and you said to me something along the lines of like, yeah, like you've just kind of had a really hard couple of years. So I'm not really sure if that like whatever you were trying to say to me had sunk in. And I was like, I have.
You have, and you've said it yourself, and that's the reason why I said it.
But in that moment, I was like, what else hasn't been hitting me or sinking with me, or haven't I noticed because I've been having a rough couple of years?
Yeah.
And, like, I'm happily now, like, on the other side, right, of that growth period. Let's just call it that.
Yeah.
But it didn't resonate with me that it had been years, plural. Like, I don't know, in my mind, the timeline was like...
Yeah.
You know?
It's hard to have concept of time when you are, like, actively going through things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, like, if you had been like, oh, yeah, it was a hard year, singular.
I added that S. And
that
it
S
changed everything.
It's like, hard past years? Like, what are you talking about? But, like, actually, yeah, it's been a really tumultuous couple of years, plural, with the S. And, like, lots of good things have come from it. But, like, including job stuff, right, which we're talking about today.
Yeah.
And, like, revelations around that and, like, what I want. But, like, literally years. Yeah. Literally years. And, like, at least 3 of, like, big transition. And I was like, oh, my God. And
Has it been 3?
Yeah. It's been at least 3 of this whole transition time period because, like, I had left that job. Well, we'll get into it when we talk about the topic.
Yeah,
but
I'm now...
See? And I was like, what? Are you serious? And then I was like, wait, like... And then, like, your whole perception of like, what has been happening and, like, how has that been affecting me and people around me? And then it made me very grateful for everyone who's been, like, by my side. And, like, and maybe I didn't even realize, like, I was, like... changing and like it was affecting other people in any type of way.
Shout out to the support system.
So yeah, that's what's been making me uncomfortable.
Wow,
and I wrote that down so I could talk about it today.
That's funny because mine is similar.
Actually, you said something to me.
No. But no, my uncomfortable moment has been transitioning back into podcast mode. Like we've been like not really. We kind of are. We took a little bit of a hiatus, but we're still doing things here and there. But like when thinking about the recording process and getting scheduled and stuff, I was like, oh snap! Like we're ramping up again.
Yeah.
And I was just like, shoot! Like I was just finally settling into the like, okay, we have a little bit of a breather, but then it's just gonna like pick up from here. Yeah. We still have a couple more weeks, you know, but it definitely hit me the other day. Like, or when I was booking the studio, I was just like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Season 10 is upon us.
3 seconds. Yeah.
Crazy. But anyways, that's what's making me uncomfortable because now I have to like switch my brain into that mode. So new year, new season.
New year, new season. Okay, and we did. So this episode feels really timely because I think we had a discussion about like what is the podcast, because it has like, you know, Pando hobby turned a little more serious.
For a second, I thought you said
Panda?
pandan. No, I said
Pandan?
I was like, ooh. I said, I'm hungry. Yeah.
I'm a little hungry.
Yeah.
Thank you for the bagel.
You're welcome. And coffee.
But like, so we've had to choose, right? And so because we've had talks about the show before, and like, are we choosing to put more time and effort into it, or are we keeping it a baby hobby and we only talk and we don't put effort into the other aspects of it, like the social media, like the merch, like all that stuff. But we've also talked about jobs and like, what do we want out of our jobs? And part of my whole uncomfortable moment of the years of transitioning was me trying to actively choose a new job path.
Yeah.
And in the course of our podcast time, you've also quit your job. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
What was making you uncomfortable about the job? What did you say no to?
Well, if you're a longtime listener of the podcast, I think we spent all of season 8 talking about how I quit my job. So
it was to be celebrated.
Yes, but I felt like towards the end of the season, I was like, all right, Melissa, we get it. You left your job. But who knows? Maybe people appreciated that honest conversation. But because I sure did. When I did. Yeah. So, yeah, I had quit my job in 2023, mid-year 2023.
Oh my God.
Yes, mid-year 2023.
What is
Holy
time?
crap. And then I spent some time, I saved up my money so that I could do that comfortably. And then when I started looking, I had interviews here and there for things that, like, it was kind of like this ebb and flow of I have spurts of I'm going to be applying to a bunch of things, and then, like, you know, a little bit of time passes, and then you get callbacks for things or like emails back, and then you start scheduling interviews and multiple interviews and things like that. So it's kind of like in one of those like times where things were happening. So like I was getting interviews, I was applying to a bunch of things, and then there was this one opportunity that came across, and this person had been talking to me directly. She's kind of the business development side of the agency that she works for. So she's trying to get in talent, like trying to get in specific qualities and like experience from people. So she reached out to me specifically for my community engagement and like my communications types of experience, and like in specifically the industry that I had come from. So she was like, this would be a great like opportunity for you. And it sounded really great. Like I was kind of enthusiastic. It was going to be more so on like the education side, like through the school district side, and doing community outreach through like for different schools across the area. But it came down to like we had multiple conversations, and it was just like we had this, I felt like really good about how the conversation was going, other than the fact that like they weren't being super transparent about pay. So at the end of the day, it was something like I had to clarify a couple of times, like, oh, what is the pay structure like? Because I know that with an agency, it's different. You bill to certain hours and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, wait. So you're liking this job. You're like, it sounds
interesting.
Great,
yeah.
But I don't know how much I would be paid.
Yeah. So then at the end of these multiple conversations, I end up like I'm emailing so that it's in writing. I'm like, I would like to know what, like, let's get to that conversation. Like, I would like to know what the pay range is going to be.
Yeah.
And then I hear back from like one of the people that I was talking to in this whole thing, and the range was low, on the like $10,000 lower than what I was making. And so I was like, oh, I don't think that's gonna work out for me.
Yeah.
And then the original person that I spoke to was like, let me just get you on the phone with so and so, a different guy, like this guy, new guy that I hadn't talked to. He's in charge of this particular contract that you would be working on. Let's see what we can finesse, because she was really trying to like root for me. Let's see if we can get you that money, basically.
Sure.
Because it wasn't necessarily up to her. It was up to like the
I get that
specific contract and like what that looked like.
Sure.
At the end of the day, like long story short, they weren't able to meet me where I needed to be met in terms of salary, and so it was kind of tough for me because I'd never at that point like turned down a job before.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a weird situation, like, and then it switched over to a thought of like, oh, am I just being like much, or like
asking too much.
asking too much, you know? Those kinds of questions started popping into my head where I was
Yes.
like, wow, I'm like there's a high bar here that I'm trying to reach.
Yeah.
And so saying no to a steady job that, you know, I had come from like a steady job and then not having a job for a while and then like turning down a job that was being offered to me felt so
Wrong.
unnatural and wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a weird thing. I like was sad about it afterwards because I wanted it to work out, you know, but it just wouldn't have worked out for my lifestyle. It would have had me driving all over the place,
Yeah.
making less money than what I was making before. So then I would be spending a lot more money on gas and
They weren't gonna
my
reimburse you. That's
yeah.
wild.
Well,
That's wild.
to a certain extent, but like the base salary still wouldn't
Wouldn't
have
have
been
met,
made
yeah.
it work. I did all the math. Like I really
try to make it
tried
work.
to make
Yeah,
it
yeah,
work,
yeah.
but it just wouldn't. So
Okay,
I
so you had to say no. Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of like put into a corner where it's just like,
Oh,
I had
that
to
doesn't
say
feel good. Okay, but let's talk about this whole like impetus for not wanting to say no,
yeah,
because we have talked about this aspect of like what you should do, like what you're supposed to do,
yeah,
and the notion of that it feels weird to say no or to go against what that thing
yeah.
is.
Like this opportunity is in front of you.
Mhm. Why wouldn't you just?
Why
take it?
wouldn't you just?
It's a
take
job. Didn't you
Yeah.
quit your job so that you could go get a new job?
Yeah.
Here's a new job that you ideally would like more.
Yeah.
But then I remember there was one point where you did say, I don't want to just pick up another job that I'm going to hate. Then what was the point of leaving the other job?
Yeah.
When I'm
That
just,
was something I had to constantly remind myself of
Mhm.
through that year of me just like kind of figuring it out. That was definitely a transition year for me where
Yeah.
I was like refiguring out what I was good at,
Yeah.
what I liked to do that I was good at,
that part.
and trying to find opportunities that like, and also trying to find opportunities that fit that better.
Yes.
And also the realization that like this job also doesn't have to be my full identity like
No.
my previous job was, because it took me so long having been at this previous place for almost a decade.
Yeah.
It becomes part of your identity, especially if it's like your first big girl job, you know,
Yeah.
your first career, like this, it ends up being like, and also tie in that whole like hustle or work hard, blah blah, that
No,
mentality.
let's get into that though,
Yeah.
because this whole like hustle culture, girl boss, babe, whatever,
Yeah.
like
That was fed to us so hard.
so hard. I mean, I think it was fed to a lot of people. Like
Yeah.
like you're supposed to be ambitious, whatever. And part of my whole transition in 2020, I was like, okay, what do we really want? Because like that was
Like
my
full stop was, what are we actually doing this for? Kind of
Yeah.
like those questions.
Yes, because that was my middle of my first year of being a school leader. I'd been in education at like for 5 years at that point. Whatever, I'd been in it for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay,
A
like
good
what do I
amount of
really
time,
want?
yeah.
Yeah. And, like during the pandemic, I was like, okay, I read this book. Oh my gosh, Annie recommended it to me. I'll have to post it when I remember the title. But
Yeah.
the title, it was basically about like designing your life, and that might actually be the title of the book. And part of the exercise was to like think about what you do on a daily basis
Yeah.
and rate on a scale like how much do you like that thing that you're doing.
Interesting.
And it took a long time of me tracking, like it took like the whole year of me tracking what I was doing and how much I enjoyed it to figure out the different parts of my job that I liked,
Yeah.
and then the parts that like really drained my battery.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because I was like, well, what job has these things that I like?
Yeah.
And then luckily something did open and I was able to
in your current like
in my same company,
yeah.
everything, and I was able to then transition into a job that had the things that I enjoyed doing, that I felt like I was good at, and that kept me sustained
yeah.
without
challenged, but all and like interesting, and something that
Yes.
like wasn't mundane or like
Yes, well, because I
annoying
I like coaching people. I like doing like training and development and like making those things and like presentations and stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, but there was a lot of other stuff that I didn't really like so much.
Yeah.
Which was like the admin stuff or
Yeah.
like the family stuff. Like I don't hate it. I'm just not as good at it.
Yeah.
It takes me a lot more effort and is
energy.
therefore more draining.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, like what can I do that will take me into a place where these are the things that I like?
Yeah.
But what that means is that I'm saying no to some things. And so over the past few years, you know, they've approached me about taking on like a principal role. And it feels crazy to me to say no. And I've said no every single year, every time they've asked. And it's not necessarily because I don't think I can do it. Like, there was this one conversation that made me kind of mad. Like, not mad at the person, but just, like, mad at the notion, because I understand why you would say that. So it was, like, I was at my coworkers. We were over for drinks.
Yeah.
And the husband, he had made a comment, like, oh, like, why wouldn't you do it? And I was like, I just don't, like, I don't want to do it. And he's like, oh, you don't have the balls. And I was like, I get why you're saying that. And I know why you think that. Like, it seems like I'm, like, scared to do it. I'm not actually scared to do the job.
Yeah.
I'm 0% scared to do the job. And then people are like, oh, like, but you'd be so good at it. And I know why they're saying that, because they think that I feel insecure, maybe. Like, oh, I can't do it. Like, I'm not good enough. I don't think that either.
Like, no, bitch. I just don't want to do it.
I actually think that I would do a good job, and I'm not scared of doing the job. Like, I've low-key done the job. It would just be, like, on a more intense scale, because it would be just me versus the time where it was me and my running the school, right? But I'm like, I don't think that I would be bad at it, and I'm not scared of it. I just don't want to. It doesn't
I think people
fit what I want.
Yeah, and I just feel like people struggle with accepting that as a reason.
Yeah, no, they do.
Yeah, because it's like,
what? Like, why wouldn't you? And then someone even told me, she was like my coworker that transitioned with me and then took that principal job. She was like, well, it's more money, and I was like, I don't fucking care that it's more money.
Yeah, is that worth?
It's not worth it to me. So like, if I do the calculations, like if I was to sit down and do the math and think through like the time and the hours. And specifically not the hours that I would do the part that I enjoy, but the hours I would spend doing the part that I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
It just doesn't equal out to me. Like, I would rather make, like, $20,000 less, which sounds insane even as it comes out of my mouth. Like, I would rather make $20,000 less than do a job that I hate. And then I'm going to leave. And I was like, do you want me to leave? Because I'll leave. I'll probably do it and then burn out, hate it, and then leave. And, like, I told them, like, it's not no forever. There might be a time where I'm like, yeah, I'll try it.
That fits.
Maybe I want to.
Yeah.
But that time is not now.
Yeah.
And as every year has passed, I've enjoyed more and more my role.
Yeah.
And, like, now I'm in charge of a team.
Because I feel like you were telling me, too, that this role also was kind of a newish type of role where, like, it was kind of created and was leaning into the strengths that you have. And,
yes.
like, enjoy doing like those types of skills.
Yes.
So it's like, why
would I leave that?
Why would you leave that?
Because it's less money, like, but like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
No.
Because you have flexibility.
A little bit more. Yeah.
A little bit more.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know. I just feel like I can spend time doing the things that I like. But people are always but those are the reactions, right?
Yeah.
They think that you don't think you're good enough, or they think that you don't have the guts to do it, or they think it's like pay that's the issue. And
you
I'm like,
do have guts to not do it. You know what I'm saying? But people don't compute it like that.
Yeah,
they just assume that they're leaning towards the insecure side.
Yes.
You actually have confidence in your skill set and what you want in your career.
Like, no, I don't want this thing. No. Yes. And it feels like counterintuitive to say no. And something I've talked about with my partner a lot is like this idea of being content. It's just, he's fascinating to me because he is just so content with his job and he like really likes it. And I was like, I don't know a lot of people who just like their job and like want to go there and like they're cool with it.
Yeah.
And it's like so rare. I feel like we hear that people are happy with their work.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what does that mean to be content?
In just any aspect of life.
And it's just like at all. Like, are you an alien?
But no, I hear you. It is rare and that's great. Like I think for people who are able to experience that in their career, that's amazing. Like I love that for you.
Yeah. Love that for you.
But yeah, I just feel like I think it is common though for a lot of people to start questioning at a certain point, like especially if you're in a field that you never expected yourself to be in.
That part.
So then when you get to a point where you're like, wait, like, because that happened for me at my workplace where it's like, I was good at my job. Like
you were.
I was great at my job. Like, so that's why when I announced that I was leaving, everyone was shooketh. Yes. Like, why would you leave
good
this?
At it?
And I'm just like, just because I'm good at it doesn't mean I enjoy it. And they're like,
that part.
What? Clutching pearls.
Right.
So I think, that conversation or someone bringing that up, like, oh, you just don't have the balls to whatever it is, like that would bother me too. Yeah. Like if someone had said it like that, which I did get kind of similar reactions of people like, why would you leave a job that's secure,
Yeah.
that you know what you're doing, that you're
Mhm.
good at. Like,
Mhm.
wow, that's like I also got comments about like, wow, what you're so blessed and like, you know,
That you're able to.
spoiled to
Yeah.
be even like thinking about
Yeah.
leaving a job like that when there are people out there that, and I understand that, but that's
Sure. And maybe if you were in a different position, you might not be able to pick that, and then you wouldn't have picked it, and you would have found something else or
Yeah.
figured it out a different way.
Yeah.
But like, if you're in that position and you can leave or find something that suits you more,
yeah,
then do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like a mixed bag. It was like people were very there were like a lot of people were very supportive.
Yeah.
But there are going to be some people that are maybe again they're probably projecting their insecurities.
Maybe.
Kind of not as supportive. you
Yeah.
know?
Because, I mean, their whole thing is like more, grind, achieve. And it's like, okay, you are, but to what end? Like, are you
Mhm.
cool?
For what?
For what? For who?
For who?
For
Are
who?
you? It's like, are you working to live? Or are you living to work?
That part
kind of
too.
thing?
And it's like I really wanted more time back, and I remember one of the biggest things that was hard about it was like feeling like I had no time.
You also like weren't able to enforce boundaries of your time.
I was
like
getting-
yeah, you were constantly barraged.
My boundary was 8 p.m. My boundary
Yeah.
was don't call me after 8.
8 p.m.
8 p.m. I
That's
know.
crazy.
And I understand like that is the job.
That's the nature of that job.
That is the nature of the job, and that's why I was okay with it. Like you know going into it that you're gonna, and people who don't know, they suffer the most. Like I already knew just because of the way my boss operated and the
Yeah.
way that I knew that. Because to be successful, you kind of in that role, you have to
To
just
be
be
available.
available, and you have to always be working.
Mhm.
Like work-life balance it's not like sometimes it's more work, sometimes it's more life, but a lot of the time it's more work.
Mhm.
And to be successful in that role, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Fine. And if you like that and that's something that brings you joy or like
You
keeps you
kind of
going,
like energized. Yeah.
yes, then do you. But like I don't know, there were parts of it that I was like, yeah, I could honestly do this for a while, probably.
Mhm.
But then I don't know, also I was going through a lot of other things that were taking a lot more brain space.
Mhm.
And I was actually good at my job at the time because I was using work to avoid all
As
that
like
stuff.
a crutch to
Yes.
like a scapegoat.
Because
basically.
it was so easy. I could literally go a whole day without looking at my phone, like except for work messages and not responding to anybody else because it was that like
Inundating.
intense. Yeah. And even afterwards I would just like stay and like finish my work at work and
Girl. Yeah. Me too though.
but the idea
'Cause
of
I would stay
saying
until,
no was
like,
crazy.
Yeah, because I would stay at that job, like thinking again, going back to that like boss babe mentality. It's
yes.
like, kudos to me? Question mark for staying in the office until like
It's like
7:30.
you're trying to win awards that don't exist. Like
Yeah.
stayed at the office the latest.
Cool.
Cool. You get a gold
Like,
star for
great.
that one. Yeah.
I was always so sad leaving, and no one else was in the parking lot. I
Yeah.
was like, oh.
Cried the most in the parking lot. Like why
I
are
had the
we
most in the bathroom at work.
Yeah.
Award goes to me.
had the most panic attacks. Like, why are we trying to win stupid awards? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, yeah. I think it also comes from like that little guilt of saying no to those things, or like
Yeah.
that idea of feeling like it's a luxury to be able to say, because it is.
It is kind of a
It is
luxury
a
to be able to
luxury.
say no.
But I think it stems from like going back to like my parents, who are just like the whole goal was to just get a steady job,
Yes.
you know,
Okay.
and then to be in a position where I was like, there was one being offered to me, and then after
Turn
having
it
taken time
down.
off, you know,
I know, and
And
of
then
course
turning
it
it
must have
down.
felt like, oh, like I've already taken so much time. Like,
yeah, should I just take
should I
this
just
and
take
that?
it? Like,
Yeah.
I've been off. Okay, but if you're in a similar situation to either Melissa or myself, or you're trying to leave, or maybe you're saying no and it feels weird to say no, because it does. I want to validate that it does. Even still, even though I am confident
Yeah.
that is not something that I want and that I like what I do now, I still am tempted.
You're just like,
I've even told, I was like, maybe I could do it.
maybe $20,000 more.
Maybe that'd be great. And then I'm like, you know what? Because there are aspects of the job I do miss. I miss
Yeah.
having like one school, having full control over things that are
'cause you're at multiple
happening.
schools.
And I don't really have full control. But I digress. So there are aspects that I miss. It's just like it's all trade-offs. And what are
Pros
you
and
willing to
cons.
trade off, you know, and then prioritize. And
Mhm.
I think if you are struggling, then you can do what I did, and you could try to keep a journal.
Of all of the tasks that you do on a daily
I do think the book is
basis.
called Design Your Life or Designing Your Life. Something
Yeah.
along those lines. You'll find it if that's what you Google. And, you know, keeping a log of the activities you do and what brings you joy. It does take time. I wouldn't say just, like, throw it all out the window because you're unhappy today. Like,
Yeah.
take some time to figure out what you want.
That's what I emphasized that whole time, like the whole season when I was just talking about this. It's like, don't just leap off.
Yeah.
Like, do an educated, like, leap, basically.
Yes.
Don't just...
Because, like, I still have bad days. Like, just because I'm in a job that I like more doesn't mean that everything's
It's also still
all
a job.
better.
At the end
It's
of the
also
day.
still
It's
a
not going to be
job.
100% enjoyable.
No.
Like, that's... Yeah.
No. And so you just kind of figure out, well, what are the things that I can deal with more so?
Mm-hmm.
And what are the things I want to say no to?
Mm-hmm.
And exercising, the whole, like, saying no muscle has been really hard.
Yeah.
But worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I say no a lot more now than I used to. And look at
You're-
me, I'm like, it's uncomfortable.
No, it's good. It's good. It's a good thing to practice because it's definitely harder than it seems. Like, people can be content in their job, but people can also just pretend to be, or they're complacent. in their job.
Complacent. That's
Mhm.
very different
It's
than
very
content.
different. So, like, if you're feeling there's a difference between content and complacent, like, if you're somewhere in between, maybe start
Mm-hmm.
doing these exercises.
And just figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say no. And if there's a promotion coming up and you feel like it would be more draining than it's worth, or those additional duties wouldn't make you happy, then, like, don't do it. You don't need
Yeah,
to.
you
Someone
don't.
else probably wants to step up or can step up
Yeah.
and
Has the capacity to.
has the capacity to. And just because, or there might not be. But that's, well,
Yeah, that's
sometimes
true.
that's a situation we have,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh yeah, like there might not be anyone behind me who's ready. But that's not my fault.
Yeah.
And I don't have to
Yeah,
sacrifice.
you don't owe anyone anything.
Mm-mm.
I had to learn that, so, like, be reminded of that constantly.
Yeah.
Still,
You-
all the time.
Still, all the time, every day.
Yeah.
It's hard, but it's just a matter of reminding yourself what you want. And I've had to do that over and over and over
Yeah.
and over again.
I saw this just to, like, end on, like, a little, like, funny moment. I saw this one TikTok or video on Instagram where it's just, like, someone at their desk, like, when you catch yourself working, like, really hard and you're like, hold on. Hold on. Let me dial that back. That's for someone who's 2 steps higher than me. Let me just dial it back. Let me go back into my pay range. Like,
Let me go ahead and take a seat back into my pay scale.
yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
find that and share that with them.
No, I need to find it.
I've
Note
seen
yourself.
it.
That just reminded me of that. It's like, yeah, you don't owe anyone anything more than what
Mm-mm.
you've been asked to do. So,
You can say no.
yeah.
It's the banner for today's episode. You can
Yeah.
say, you can say
Maybe
no.
that should be the time. You can say no.
You can, oh.
Calling to a promotion.
You can just say no. It's a complete sentence.
Yes, that's true.
Where can they find us? But don't say no to us. Say yes, yes, yes.
Yes, say yes to us. Follow us on all the platforms. Well, not all. We're on. We're on Instagram.
Or all. Or
Or-
achieve.
Well, I don't know if we're on all, like completely all. I'm uncomfortable.podcast. We're on Instagram and TikTok for however long that lasts. I forget. We didn't shout out our Facebook group. We're on Facebook.
It's so secret. We
It's
forgot
so secret.
about
We
it.
forgot. Search I'm Uncomfortable Club and you'll find the group. Join us. You get the episodes a whole day early. We're on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're on all the streaming platforms for podcasts, so
Yeah.
you can watch us if you want to see our beautiful faces.
You can buy our
Or-
merch so you can wear it while
Oh my
you watch
gosh,
us.
yes, we have merch.
Click the link in
Shout
our
out the
bio.
merch. We'll provide all the links and things, so definitely support us. We will see you for another episode.
Want more of the I'm Uncomfortable podcast? Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at I'mUncomfortable.podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and join our Facebook group, the I'm Uncomfortable Club, to gain early access to our episodes and exclusive content. We're available wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.